All right, everyone. Welcome to chapter 24, the ISIS papers. Black woman moving towards the 21st century. And I think it's really important to also date this year because this is written in 1975. And the knowledge the knowledge written here is so like important to like right now to tomorrow until this problem is solved. And it was really profound and beautiful to really like get the logic and understanding that like black women are like the fathers of mankind, basically like the birthers of mankind, in some sense of the word. Like they created every race on the planet, and like white people were like the last race that came from them. And yeah, white people cannot produce any other people. They can only make white people, whereas black women can produce like all people. So it's really like profound chapter. Really loved it. And I really love like that the whole idea, not idea, the whole reality that we're in crisis mode. Like we're in crisis mode right now, and we're like the destruction is being wrapped up. Trey just told me they got throwing black people in blenders. It's terrible. Like I just, yeah, I'm like, very scary, sick world we live in, and we gotta solve this problem ASAP. Um, so anyone give their what they got from the chapter? Anything want to share? Summarization.
Yeah, I was fascinated by I guess, her talking about Cleopatra,
Oh yeah.
of Egypt, and how that could totally be placed in contemporary society, as in right now, where you have a lot of, not a lot, I can't say a lot. I can say I've seen black women associate whiteness with protection, associate whiteness with some form of progress. And it's interesting seeing that Cleopatra tried to save Egyptians by being with Mark and Julius Caesar. Not, I don't forget the last good. The first, I forgot Mark's last name. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
But
Mark
how she,
Anthony, but yeah.
yeah, Mark Anthony, how she tried to save the Egyptian people in her kingdom by allowing Romans to invade her physically and invade her body physically as well. And how it didn't work out for the Egyptians. Now you have the majority of the world believe in Egypt is in the Middle East, and the people who live in Egypt look like white people. So it didn't work for Cleopatra, and it will never work for any black woman. Every black woman that engages in a interracial relationship with a white person will slowly meet their demise. And even if they, I don't think they can be happy in it. I don't think they're happy in it. I think this is all a facade and like a survival tactic. The slave mentality has evolved to convince the person that they're actually happy being with their oppressor. And even if you're white and you're in a relationship with a black person, you know what you're doing. Don't pretend like you don't know that you're a slave still. You're imagining this person to be your property. We all know what you're doing. And if they don't know, I fucking know. I fucking know what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and also black males who like are sexually being stewarded by white females, black males who are interracial in interracial relationships with white females are also like guilty and contributing to their own demise because a white woman cannot help you solve the problem of racism. You know, like it makes no sense. Someone said that it's impossible for a person to like fight racism every day and then go home and lay down on racism. The white person, like the indication of racism, like the reason for racism is white people. race is racism. White people created race to practice racism. Man, let's follow the logic. Makes sense. So, um, we're in crisis mode. We need our black males and black females to, understand the problem. And, a black woman is like the first teachers of society, the first teachers of mankind was a black woman. Just probably as the first protectors of mankind was the black man. And look how like far we've been like degraded. Any comments,
Yeah,
questions?
just after that, I just the word, the N word, the word you said. You ended on. Let's see how far we've been degraded, and I can tell everyone right now, we've been degraded to the point where idiots they took the word nigger, and then they added a fucking A to it, and that's supposed to make it all better. So that's the time we've been degraded, bro. We'll take white people's words that they use to classify us as subhumans, and then we'll change the letter of that word, and now it's supposed to give us power. Bullshit. It does not give us power. It does not make us elevated. It is a disgusting, dehumanizing word. And the synonym, well, not the synonym, but the counterpart for the word nigga is bitch, and that's been given to our black women. So like we've been in the grave. We've come from creating nations to creating people to creating religions and languages to creating art and math and alchemy to twerking and being niggas and bitches. God damn it, we've fallen so far. Wow. Yeah.
Damn, quite a shame. I'm quite ashamed.
Yeah, to add to that statement, to add to Shrey's statement, the term bitches is literally the relationship that they have with their dogs, or what they call their dogs. So they're just constantly trying to force that narrative of us being synonymous to dogs in every way, shape, or form that they can. Reading this chapter, for my summary, reading this chapter was absolutely amazing. It was it filled me up. It filled me and my soul with like more inclination to like my mission and like how I can contribute to the world of our psychosocial development through the understanding of what Black women can and should be doing now. Given the fact that this was written in 1975, and a lot of these things are still highly relevant. A lot of the things that she mentions are extremely relevant in today's society, but I would like to like just weave out the ways in which we have modernized and the ways in which that we have like grown, and a more stronger angle that we can have based on the fact that so many more Black women are moving in a more conscious way. Like one thing I remember back in 2014 when I stopped like relaxing and perming my hair, I'd speak to several different other Black women and they all were like, oh yeah, I want to go natural. I want to go natural. It was just like a thing on our tongues. Within a year time from that, and it was Black women mainly that I saw that from, or maybe that's because who I was communicating with. And then I saw like maybe a year after that, a lot of Black women saying that they want to be vegan. And I was just like, in my mind, I was just like, as long as you're going outside and getting the sun and the downloads of information, we are also honestly hearing and experiencing some of the same messages, and it's up to us to choose whether or not we go on those paths. And I feel like a lot more people are listening to those intuitions and to those intuitive movements, and now we can move together more. We can move together more as a unit, and I'm just happy that I'm gonna aim to try and fill in the gaps and then try and see what I can move further with this. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, for installing a further part of my mission through this chapter.
Yeah, Mary, lead the way. Help us lead the way, Mary. Black women of the 21st century, we need your help to solve this problem. Like, this is an SOS. And I want to emphasize this crisis mode that we're in by reading what she has stated. Hope I'm not muted. So this is on page 283. During periods of crisis and stress, the easiest thing to do as an expression of our pain, despair, and hopelessness is to moan, groan, cry, or attempt to escape through alcohol, drugs, fantasy, laughter, or just fun and games. However, another possible behavior response, which channels the body energy upward and onward as opposed to downward, is the use of the crisis as a stimulus for analysts, challenge, responsibility, growth, and great creativity. The word crisis evolves from the Greek word crisis with a K, which means decision. A period of crisis is a time for decision, an unstable or crucial time or state of affairs when the decisions that are made or acted upon become all important for determining future events. Both men and women throughout the world have key roles to play in the resolution of this crisis. But my singular emphasis here is on the role of Black women. So we're in crisis mode, and you know, it's gonna take responsibility of the entire so-called Black race. And a lot of creativity to solve this problem. You know, we may have to begin come up with use that melanin to develop like new technologies to neutralize the problem. You know, we may need to seriously come up with a solution to solve this problem ASAP, because the war against us is only amplifying, getting more refined. You got people doing the keep a shuffle for Biden, and it's just not good, not constructive. And anyone else want to comment, add anything to the intro?
Yeah, just to add what you said, we are in such a bad state of mind, such a bad state of spirit, and such a bad state of understanding that we, like you said, you have Black people twerking and dancing for Joe Biden, a white man responsible for putting so many Black men and women in prison, who's responsible for altering laws that change the lives of Black people all across America. You have someone who's like for a crime bill. First of all, just so you guys know in context, crime and Black people are synonymous. Crime was created for Black people. Crime was created so Black people can be locked up. Crime was created so Black people can be controlled and surveillance. So yeah, you have what you said so far is very true. We are in a state where Black people are ultimately confused,
Yeah.
demoralized, and unwilling to like look in the mirror. You know what I mean? Yourself, do you see a human being or do you see a goddamn meme? Like what do you see when you look in a mirror? Do you see yourself or what you've been told that you are? And that's like the psychological effects of racism. I think a lot of people don't know who they are anymore. I can't say they don't know who they are anymore. They never knew who the fuck they were because who they are, they've been told they are. People follow trends, follow tropes versus following knowledge and following logic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to like go back to what you said about how like we became like niggas and bitches. Like I used to, when I was very confused about racism, I used to justify. I used to be like, white people would be like, you know what? I don't get how like Black people can say nigga, but I can't say nigger. And then like I don't get why like they can call each other that. I don't get it. I don't get why Black people call each other niggers. I don't get it. And then like I used to like waste my time telling them, well, it's because like Black people, white people used it against us, and we took it, and now it's good for us. we turned it against them. It's like power now. And I was like thinking back on that logic, like how is it power? Like because like it sounds different, and like we call each other like while we're like doing unconstructive things. Like where's the power into it? So and I repeated this dialogue so many times in my life of defending the N-word, and like it's just unconstructive behavior when I was very confused about racism.
Yeah. Also, this is a very vivid memory I have of mine. I remember being a kid and like seeing my uncles greet each other. Like, what's up, dog? What's up, big dog? Little dog? Like, never call each other names ever. So, and then growing up, and then people calling me dog, and me having to tell people, don't fucking call me dog. Yeah, right? Don't call me a goddamn animal, right? So, just the whole naming process, how black people do not have like every black person has a nickname, you know, like it's always an object. It's never like an actual human.
Trap dog, and um like we have nicknames, especially like in the hood community. We have nicknames that represent like violence. Like I have a aunt, her nickname is Combo because like allegedly she could like knock people out in a combo, but it's all factual. She's a very traumatized victim of racism, white supremacy. And we have like game bangers who have like nicknames that like like Boom because like they shoot the gun, makes a large boom to kill somebody. Like Little Boom, Big Boom. You know, just sleep. You put people to sleep. A little murder. It's just such a destructive culture that we have. Like that's why it's not worth 2 cents, as Neely Fuller has quoted today, saying. I'm gonna sound about that too, but anyone have anything else to share?
I forgot what I was gonna say. That was very funny, Swallow, about you, using that energy to explain something like that. I think probably all of us have been in a situation like that where we've had to explain to our white friends why they can't say the N word, and there's been a lot of times where I'm saying, I'm giving them the reason, it's like offensive, but while you're saying it, you realize how stupid it is to, call yourself that and to tell somebody else they can't call you that, or you're calling yourself that. So, I just went on to say, let's just like not all, like none of us, let's just not say it. Let's, I won't say it around you if you don't say it around me.
Yeah.
That was my solution to that.
Yeah.
But
And I think like to get us like an idea of like how like why is the split between black women and black men so like large, and why is a black woman in a better position than a black male, because it started a long time ago. It started very long time ago. Trey mentioned Cleopatra, causing the fall of not causing but contributing to the fall of like Cleo of Egypt. Has she found like a black male and been constructive about defeating the Romans and understanding that but if the Romans and the white people are all bad and just gonna continue to destroy them, we would be in a total different place now. But because she failed to understand like the racist dynamics back then that are still here now, you know. And I want to read from 286, and she's talking about how black women, just about black women in their position, they were rewarded for correctly teaching their children to conform to their master's wishes, as well for telling their men to calm down and be patient, that so that they too could be rewarded. Perhaps we black women really became seduced by the illusion of power, being so close to white males. We have told ourselves that these behaviors were survival tactics and the only way that we could have come this far. But as our survival increasingly is becoming threatened, we are forced to wonder if we have been mistaken in our analysis and our strategy. But again, there is something to be learned from our African past, and we must never forget that those who not learn from that history, their whole story, are bound to repeat it. So, yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's great to know history. As a child, I loved history, but I was always fed nonsense and like just white violent history. But now that I'm getting the truth, I am very conscious about using history to my like benefit, and like, all right, if a group of people are trying to destroy my people since they've been on this planet, then that group of people should be avoided unless I'm getting like constructive value from them, like money or information. Other than that, they're very dangerous, and I think they owe a lot of non-white people a lot of like land and energy and resources for like the terrorization that has been happening to us for thousands of years. And until that happens, yeah, this problem will not be solved of racism, white supremacy, and um, one of our goals is definitely should be reunifying like the black race, like the black males and black females all have to not come together, but be aware that the system needs to be countered 24/7. Um,
Yeah, I liked in this chapter how she really talked about the black woman's role and kind of like the necessity for black women to basically raise warriors. And I just kind of started to think like, rather than preparing us and really teaching us about white supremacy, a lot of our mothers, personally, like, a lot of the women in my life don't really prepare me for that.
yeah,
Instead they try to give me this kind of false reality that through hard work everything will be okay, or through if you believe in Jesus, uh, everything will be all right. But and I think that's what when she was talking about Cleopatra, it made me realize like that was like her issue. Rather than like prepare and go to war, she tried to coddle and like protect black her nation, which is black men. That's how I interpreted it. So
yeah, and that behavior has only like manifested, and it's just really important that like people understand their roles and just the importance of like yeah, teaching the children about racism and white supremacy, and it's their duty. Like you're not born, in this planet to be a slave child, and it's your duty to counter this problem 24/7, and not to be made inferior, not to hate yourself. To understand your power, to understand that you created. Everything like your people have given white people everything that they have, and despite that, they are still destroying you. So have to understand this dynamic and how to counter it. So I want to read it from 288. And
As
she,
well, before you read that,
yeah, what's up?
share a bit about like my experiences with black women trying to inform me of the world I was living in without really having a proper definitions for what I would be experiencing in the future.
Yeah.
So when I was young, I had this black math teacher. I forgot her name. I think it could be Miss Robinson. Um, so I remember she put me out of the class one day, and she was telling me about how my life is going to be harder than everyone else's life. Um, because I guess she said because I was black and a young black person, she didn't say, "Hey, my life is going to be harder because of racism, white supremacy." So therefore, her attempted education, her trying to educate me, made me more confused because like, why is me being black gonna make my life harder? She didn't say racism, white supremacy. She can say that white people are gonna have created a society that puts you at the bottom of the social ladder. She didn't say white people have criminalized black people, so that means you're a black person, you're gonna be robbed. She didn't say any of these things. So the information that she gave me was very useless and very toxic as well because a lot of black kids get told you are the problem, like you are the problem, your existence is the problem, versus hey, white supremacy is a real thing that you're going to experience because you are black. And first of all, you're not even black, you've been classified as black. And that's a classification. It's not a person, it's a color. You've been classified as that.
Yeah, before white people came along, we were Africans, and I think Trey, I think you just dropped like a lot of knowledge just now. Thank you for sharing all that, and like and another tragic example of how when people are unprepared about racism, not understanding what it is and how it works, they end up telling black children consciously or subconsciously that they were born a problem. Their skin is a problem, not that they were born into a system designed to inferiorize them, designed to niggerize them and have them, grow up to shoot each other, hate each other. So it's really important that we know understand how to counter this problem. And 288, she states, the great Dr. Cress Welsing states, "What must we as Black women do? It is my conviction that the African proverb, 'the hand that rocks the cradle rules the nation and its destiny,' is true. Black women are the mothers and thus the first teachers of Black females and Black males alike, with increased consciousness of their importance as the first teachers. Black women can determine whether future generations of children will be warriors or if we will continue to be slaves living in a highly refined state of psychological oppression, which is no less a death than direct physical destruction. Black women, as mothers and teachers, can teach the first powerful lessons in pride and respect for cultural, historical, and genetic Blackness while steadfastly refusing to impart any part of the white oppressor's lesson in Black self hate that we learn as children. If you're Black, stay back. If you're brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're white, you're all right. Black mothers must cease making their first concern whether or not their babies will have light skin and straight hair. The newborn infant can tell from the mother's first touch whether she is pleased or disappointed with its color, appearance, and gender. Certainly later, the child can tell the mother's respect for Blackness by the comments she makes about who is a pretty girl, who's a handsome boy, and who has a proverbial good and bad hair. All of these lessons that we have been taught by our white oppressors teach our young, we must refuse to ever teach again. But Black women, as mothers and teachers, can take their consciousness to a even higher level. They can give the first lesson in what constitutes Black manhood. They can teach all of their sons that they are not their babies or substitute lovers. Black women can be the first to inform their sons with loving kindness that they did not bring them into the world to be oppressed. Rather, they brought them into the world to be free men, warriors who have to war to be free and to die if they happen to die in the fight for their right to be full men under the stars. So I think it's really important to always remember this to end the cycle of teaching our children what a lot of people call colorism. It's just another form of self hate and contributes to our Black destruction.
Yeah, that was very powerful because going back to early in the chapter, Black fear specifically, where I was talking about how afraid I was, and I definitely think what she's talking about, that last part especially about Black women teaching Black men that they came in that they didn't come into the world to be oppressed. They came in to be free under the stars. I think that's very powerful. That's something that nobody's made that clear to me. I for a lot of my life, it's just like you just kind of assume and you just kind of know that you're gonna be struggling and it's gonna be tough, and that's just the way life is supposed to be because nobody's telling you this, that you're being oppressed and that you need to fight for your freedom.
Yeah, reading that part, just that Swad just completed reading there, was very like an eye-opening for me. It provided so much context as to the kind of mindsets that a lot of us saw our parents having, and I saw a lot of indoctrination on them, which basically in turn controlled and suppressed us. And my mother was highly concerned with colorism. If you did not see it, if they didn't physically say it to you, you saw it in their version of a life, the way that they lived their lives, I would say. And when I got to a particular age, I maybe like 16, 17, I did confront my mom about that, and the statement that she had made about beauty, because she was like, oh, I'm growing beautifully, but she was like, oh, she's more beautiful than me because she has a straighter nose and her skin is lighter than mine. And I literally just said, and you think that is what beauty is? And then she didn't know how to finish the sentence, because it's like I've just been like, I was just like, that doesn't equal beauty to me. And yeah, so the point is that the mindsets of our parents, and like how Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talks about that line in particular. Let me find it. Very important line. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the nation and its destiny. And when you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Literally, the indoctrination our parents had is literally what was passed down onto us, and it's up to, we either like take it in, programmed wise, or we have to like shed it at a certain point in our lives. So I can see how not particular our generation, because our generation was very and highly distracted. I believe that my mother's generation, that she's about 60 now, was highly indoctrinated, which is why religion is so strong in their system. They're either strictly really strict Muslims or really strict Christians or whatever faith they follow. They're really strict on it, and those are literally the guidelines on how they try to manage us. Is only through them. I'm seeing my mother, seeing my example of living and her life experience, that she's able to now shed it and see the wisdom in the way that we're living our lives. But yeah, if uninterrupted, it would just be the indoctrination that teaches me. So I'm really grateful for this chapter in enlightening me exactly on why it is that the woman's mindset is highly controlled. The Black woman's mindset is highly controlled, so they can control their people.
Yeah, and exactly, and I think when she mentions like the Black baby can tell whether or not the mother is pleased with it in the moments it's born. I think that should be an indication of like the power of like melanin and like the connection between like, you know, Black people like are born with, especially their siblings and like mother and child. So, you know, our power has been like, you know, erased and degraded and destroyed, and it's up to us to really restore that and to not to recreate any of the ancient stuff, but to, you know, counter this problem until there can be justice and peace on planet Earth. Because, you know, this is a giant ass planet, and it makes no sense that there's everywhere on it there's suffering and destruction and rape and chaos. And if Black people, non-white people were able to end all of that, end racism, I'm sure all of that would like be solved. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So while I was reading this, in the past, a lot, what was coming up to me a lot was, the idea of there being a double standard between like women and men. And me personally, I've always thought like, like what's wrong with that? I don't think it's necessarily bad that there's a double standard that women have to uphold. So, I think specifically when we're talking about like childbearing and like pregnancy. I'm not talking about like I mean obviously that conversation probably took place mostly in the context of like teenage pregnancy, but I've always felt like as far as like women and the role that they play in like childbearing, that they should be, I guess, considered more responsible. I'm not trying to, I don't know, how do the women in here feel about that? Because I've been made to feel like I'm some kind of idiot, and like that's a negative idea. But I feel like Dr. Welsing that's kind of what she's saying right here. That almost, I don't want to say like women have to take more responsibility, but she's definitely like saying that there is a responsibility that women have that I guess necessarily isn't the same that men. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Mary or Ash, you wanna try to answer Ezekiel's question?
What was your question?
I was just saying, like, do you think the idea that of there being a double standard, or being a double standard between men and women as far as like childbearing goes, do you feel like I've always felt like there really isn't an issue. I don't see an issue with there being a double standard, and I feel that Dr. Welsing is kind of saying the same thing. Like, women do have a certain responsibility, and do have a certain responsibility. And I don't know if that kind of seems like almost like that double standard that people talk about that there is. I understand that most of the time that conversation is usually revolving around like teenage pregnancy as far as the double standard. But do you feel like the idea of a double standard is like bad?
It depends on the context of the double standard. I feel like in terms of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she does it quite a lot. She mentions that males are like more stronger and able to do like the physical, aggressive, and like security, like more black protective style work, where the woman can be like management of a home. She makes a lot of mentions, and for me, of course, growing up in a world where they told you you should be able to do it all yourself, in a sense, or you should be able to do it all yourself, like it's taken some mental adjustment, but I highly agree, because at the end of the day, there is a natural order of things, and I don't believe that it's necessarily a double standard, but more so a lane, and it's more so like parallel responsibility, fairness versus equality. What is fair versus equal? Rather than treating each other equally, we have to treat each other fair according to our, I believe, our capabilities. And I feel like maybe this is me just having an understanding that women have used their right side of their brain way. I can't say all men, because there's unique different types of men out there who have tapped into their right side more frequently and use that side of their brain. But I feel like women from the get-go, we are just naturally more spiritual in that sense, and have the ability to see both sides. Maybe I'm wrong to say that, make that statement. I'll let my thoughts more mature and manifest, and mature more, but I'll leave it at that for now. Let Ashley take over.
Can you repeat the question, Ezekiel? Sorry.
I was saying, when I was reading this a lot, that idea of there being a double standard between women and men, as far as when it comes to like childbearing, and how I guess men, that like women have basically, like, people are just telling women to have more responsibility. I've always felt like women do have more or should be more responsible, or have more responsibility. And that I know a lot of people don't feel that way. And I also understand that usually when that conversation is being had, it's usually revolving around like teenage pregnancy and whatnot. But basically, I'm asking, do you think like it's bad to that idea? Do you think it's bad to have that? Do you think there is a double standard, and do you think it's bad to have a double standard?
Wait, so are you asking a double standard in terms of if women having sex, like should have more responsible sex, or are you saying
Yeah, I guess so.
in terms of bearing the actual child and taking care of the child?
I guess both, kind of.
Well, I think that, like, from the readings, it shows that both men and women should, in terms of like having responsible sex, like the responsibility is on both men and women. But in terms of like childbearing, I kind of agree with Mary. Kind of like men and women assume different risks just based on like what their bodies are capable of, and like women assume the risk of like that comes with like childbirth and rearing children. And like if you just think about too, like existing in a world where like if you have to breastfeed as a woman, you're going to be around your young child just much more often than like the man would be, because you're producing their food. And if you like breastfeed, like in other societies you would breastfeed for like 3 to 4 years, and that's a significant amount of time and bonding that the man is just not going to have with the kid. And so it is going to build like different relationships, different types of bonding. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think we have to be more accepting that like women and men are just different because we're born different. I know there's like a big push to like make all of us equal, to the point where they're trying to make no one give birth and like everyone just give birth through like pods or something, so that like men and women become equal or something, some weird shit like that. But like I think at some point you have to accept that, you know.
Not maybe not even accept. Just remember, like before the technology, like
Yeah, it was set up that way.
like breastfed up to 5 years, if possible, to create a bond with people. This is why, you know, people aren't breastfed anymore. Or people are breastfed from like plastic things, and this is why we have like serial killers being born who chopping off nipples and making like a mass out of them again. So like it's bad, there's no love, no nurturing happening anymore because of what race and white supremacy has just ruined society. Like it in order for the system to exist, its participants, everyone, including, has to be insane. It's an insane system. We're all insane.
And I also think like the reason why women push so hard to like be like equal to men in terms of like not wanting to do like housework and stuff is because that type of work is undervalued and it's not compensated. So like if you just make it so that it's like actually seen as like work and labor that is compensated in some way, I think people would devalue it less. And I think people would be less ashamed to like do housework, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's just the just the status quo, white supremacy has just like placed so many images of like you know they have given black people no constructive like images of like how it should be. You know there's no constructive images of like black people, so people have no idea how they should be behaving. That's why they're like thinking that like just like a dad is just about being jokes and being funny and having your kids laugh at your jokes, and solving a problem every now and there, where it's actually teaching your kids about racism and white supremacy and how to counter it and how not to be inferiorized and not to be made to hate yourself and not to be made to trust the people who have been destroying your people for centuries. So I think the example of the black woman needs to be reset to not strong independent, but the first teacher of the child, the teachers of mankind who help us and allow us to remember like our duty here is to counter racism and white supremacy until it has been ended. And yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to well sorry, I was cooking, that's why I wasn't on. But I really, really, really like this chapter. Like I think it's like a really pertinent chapter because there's a lot of like I think like what Trey was talking about, the Cleopatra thing, that is like happening so much right now in terms of like black women aligning themselves with like white people, white organizations, and like literally like putting down black men to get a seat at the table. It's like the entry point to get a seat at the table into like white like orgs or whatever is by like sacrificing the black man. And I think it's really important that like black women really need to understand like, it's white people that oppress you. Like anything else is like a secondary effect. And so I thought that this chapter was really important. And I think it is really important to understand, like what Dr. Welsing was saying about how Black women and Black men have different roles under white supremacy, and Black men are targeted in ways that Black women just aren't. And that means that Black women can also use that like to our advantage. Like I know that when I was reading about the Algerian War, when they were fighting for independence, they would like, the Algerian women would like lure like French soldiers who were colonizing their land, and then the men would just like kill them like once they lured them into like whatever place. And I liked that type of solidarity is cool, and I think that we should be doing stuff like that, like where, you know, we can use the fact that like Black women can enter these spaces to like either infiltrate them or like, you know, get them all in one room and just, you know, obliterate them in whatever way. Like, yeah.
Good work. Good work is what I call that. And yeah, and we still see that Cleopatra syndrome happening. You know, Trey just mentioned so-called Kamala Harris, who's also being celebrated and glorified right now, has a white husband. You know.
Yeah, Alicia Garza, like the person who founded BLM, is like has a white man partner, trans man partner, like a lot of these people.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought
Cannot fight race and white supremacy and go home and have sex with it at the same time. It don't work like that.
I absolutely love everything you said, Ashley. That articulation was so on point of like all my thoughts that bubbled from reading this chapter. Definitely Black males are up for sacrifice, Black women are up for sacrifice to ascend as a Black male or Black woman to ascend in the industry or in any kind of movement that you are doing, especially the Black Lives Matter movement. I have a friend who basically they're Black trans and biological female Black male trans, and they one of the first things that they got regularly to protest and as a form of activism and give speeches. And one of the things that they had done that which from this point over, this is just an observation from what I saw, the second that they talked about how they disappointed in Black men because Black men alienated them, raped them, which is a personal experience, raped them, and also what's the other statement? Alienated them, raped them, and gives them the most pressure and is out here killing Black trans because of their homophobia. From that point, so many people asked to do interviews with them, started doing shoots with them, and then they got invited to more talks and rallies because the conversation that they're having is on the nose of the money, on the nose of sacrifice, as opposed to the wider picture of white supremacy causing all these discrepancies amongst different Black people where they're able to fight each other in their little crab bucket. Like not having that understanding and perpetuating these statements is literally the call of the day with all movements. They always try to find, if any kind of like we're talking about in a time of crisis, where she mentions crisis being a form of decision. In a time of crisis, decisions can be made, and they literally take the narrative that is going to like keep it mediocre or keep it afloat, and no actual change will happen. Those people get suppressed, and the people who are seem to do have the passion but are misdirected, they're put on the forefront on pedestals because it's just going to keep it's just going to keep the complacency going, and it's a shame to see, man.
Yeah, that's tragic. Had only she had the awareness that, you know, she has been abused consistently because she lives in a society where white supremacy trains Black men and all non-white people to be abusers, men and women included, to be monsters and monstrosities. So I hope she eventually gets the awareness. Unfortunately, a lot of confused people do not. Anyone else have anything to share?
I wanted to comment on Kamala because she, you know, I think she's the very epitome of everything that the Black woman shouldn't be, or she's the anti-Black woman. You know, she's married to a white guy. She's going around saying she's Black when she's not, and I've seen a lot of things about her. Her mom was, the Indo-Aryan, those super racist Indians. That's her line of people, and she's literally in office for her record, her prison record of locking up black people. And I don't know how anybody could think that this woman is to be celebrated in
Yeah.
any capacity. So
Damn. Her mom is from the highest caste system in India. Indian white supremacy right there.
so she, her mom is the inspiration for Hitler. Her people, that was Hitler's inspiration. That's where he got his ideas from those Indians.
Wow. Well, that's pretty tragic, and that's a great example of non-white people participating in their own destruction without even realizing it.
I also have to add that a lot of the Nazi strategies were also inherited from America. They're like, okay, how are the niggers being suppressed in America? And he was able to see how, how the fuck is America suppressing an entire race of people. He studied America, and then America was what allowed them to be able to establish their ghettos, to establish their propaganda routines and materials, and also start the process of systematically eradicating the Juden, But it was
Well,
also too.
yeah, the Semites, the Semites, because like, to be honest, I don't think they're being killed because they're the Jewish. They're being killed because they're Semites. They have that African genetic inside of them. So I will call them Semites. Because it means half. But I get what
I
you're saying.
wanted to read something.
Yeah.
Okay. On page 287, I don't know if someone read this or not, but she says, Black people are in a very serious economic depression. While whites are still at the stage of recession, Blacks remain the last hired and first fired, in spite of the supposed achievements of affirmative action. The relative levels of Black unemployment and white unemployment have not changed. Since 1945, the housing situation for urban Blacks is not improving. Black men continue to be sent to prison in record numbers out of proportion to our population percentage. Black men presently constitute 90% of the state prison population, and we now witness a nationwide return of the death penalty. And when I was reading that, it really made me think of like Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Sanders like run for presidency, because it makes you think about how pernicious kind of like white people are, in that when they're slightly doing bad, they have this like rallying call where like we should all come together under the banner of like socialism and build like a better society, because now they're struggling. But like the moment that they would get a little bit better, like they call for a lot of universal programs that would definitely benefit them, but always, like how Dr. Welsing says, there's always a discrepancy between how much it benefits Black people versus like white people. And so all of those programs, even if you have universal health care, there's areas in Black neighborhoods where there's no hospital. And if there is a hospital, that hospital is killing Black people, right? And so I think it's really important to understand like our relationships to white people, and that just because white people may be like going through a recession or like suffering in some way, that doesn't mean that it's a time to like ally with them, because they're just going to drop you the moment that it's not beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. Racist suspects, usual suspects.
Yeah, very very great point. I think they've repeatedly done that throughout history, and we continue to fall for it. Um, you know, particularly with these elections, people want to say, oh, if it wasn't Biden, you'd be supporting Bernie, blah blah blah. I've never liked any of those guys. I've never messed with them. I haven't cared for any of them ever. And it's because I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna keep falling for this over and over. I mean, I've only been alive for 25 years. You people have at least 20 years on me. When do you decide enough is enough? You know, like when do you realize, like, hey, maybe let's change our strategy rather than doing the same thing over and over every year,
That
every 4 years.
I think we referred to chapter 6, the passivity of, like, the black race, black males, black females included. Like, where, like, the older you get, not realizing like what's happening, I feel like you become a more get in a more passive state, and you become like, and then you also, if you trust white people, you trust their system,
Hmm.
like you're already doomed. You're already doomed from the beginning, because you're participating in their mechanisms designed to eradicate you.
I have people telling me that I can't complain because I didn't vote. You know, how does that make any sense? You know, because like you said, if I voted, that means I have confidence in that system, but I don't have confidence in that system, so that's why I didn't vote.
Oh,
You know, I don't know. It's a lot of backwardsness, a lot of
yeah.
things not getting solved.
So
Um,
I have to
go
say
ahead.
this. So I think for black women and black male parents, it's really important to stop teaching children how to be cute, how to do these TikTok dances, how to show out, how to, like, go out and get like the freshest clothes and whatnot. Start teaching them how to just be low frequency, superficial people. Don't teach them how to be strippers anymore. Like, teach them deep self respect. And I want to read it from 289. And she says, Black women as mothers and teachers consciously can teach their daughters that Black women, as the mothers of all mankind, are the alpha and omega of women on this planet. They were here at the beginning, and if mankind remains, they will be present in the end. Black mothers can teach their daughters that they should never seek to look like or be anything other than themselves. They can set the standards of what women will be like on this planet. So, I feel like using makeup, putting makeup on, and, like, yeah, that can, like, make, it. I see that as, like, not participating in a deep level of self respect, because you're adding things to yourself to make you look so called prettier, to make you look, you know, to enhance your features or whatever. Why do you need to enhance your features that the creator gave you, that you were supposed to be born with? Why do you need to have brighter lips? Why do you have to do makeup stuff? I think, like, that is participating in white supremacy. You're giving money to white people, and you're like, you know, it's not. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I would argue this.
On top of that, I wanted to add a little bit. Um, did you read on 289? I wanted to read. They can set the standards of what women will be like on this planet. Did you read that already?
Um. Oh well. Yeah, you can read it again. You're probably gonna read more of it.
Yeah. For this is their responsibility coming from the tradition of the first mothers and queens. Black women can teach their daughters that respect is not given to women by men, but that Black women carry in themselves the highest possible level of respect that commands respect from men and women of all races. Black women can teach their daughters how they possibly assist in the destruction of Black men and Black people by allowing Black men to hide out in the vagina. To allow this hiding out, attempts to climb in the womb to be babies or fetuses again, when they know the men should turn and face their oppressors in an extreme level of self destruction. So not so much the end of this, but going off of what Swal was reading too, and what I just read, the person that kept coming up to mind was Lizzo for me. I just kept seeing Lizzo and those assless shorts she was wearing and how she was twerking at that NBA game. And when it's like it's their responsibility to carry themselves in a way that they will receive respect and thinking about what Lizzo was doing and how, Black women go crazy for that. And then Black people, go crazy for that and think, praise something like that. And not only that, the TikToks and stuff she makes too. Very like just such a huge lack of self-respect. And I don't know how anybody, how we as Black people can ask for people to respect us when we can continue to be portrayed like that.
Yeah, I discovered this artist. Her name is Mulatto. My first
Oh
day,
my God.
my first day discovering her. She has 5.2 million followers on Instagram and exhibiting very low levels of self-respect and not and a lot of non-constructive behavior. But just the whole like practice and attempting to like um attain whiteness, like to like claim whiteness and to like, she's like blonde hair, may she have, I'm sure she wears contacts sometimes. And just that, and when you participate in this behavior, when you show that you're trying to be white, you are able to develop a platform. You're able to like, because people are all trying to be white in their own ways, because everyone already has a European mind, because
Yeah.
majority of people are not doing the work.
I'd like to comment on both of those statements that you and Ezekiel have made there. For one, I definitely agree. You definitely see Black women assimilating and wearing the blonde hair and putting the blue contacts in. But my observation is this is the
last one, it said 3 bedrooms, 4 beds though.
Oh, sorry. I lost you,
Did
Mary.
Mary cut out? Or was it just
Mary, just finish on my computer.
sorry, where was I? Yeah, I feel like it's a state of it's a survival tactic that occurs. Like, look at, for instance, the other day Trey had shared a post about, or a picture of little Kim as a dark skinned woman and then as a white woman. The same thing I believe happened to Michael Jackson. He went from being a Black man to basically being a white woman. And I think this is constantly happening in a society that basically tells them that this is how you would be treated easiest. This is like little Kim got statements in music bars of rappers saying stuff like ugly ass, get your ugly ass off the streets. She experienced openly in what we physically saw, Biggie leaving her for Faith Evans, who is a mixed race light skinned woman. So like you can literally see her version of like her Utomorazo, or her mentality telling her that this is the way that you're going to be treated well. Like we see Beyonce, the blonde hair and the lightening of skin, and now that it's socially and consciously relevant to be a darker hue, we see like more tan tones. But earlier in 2010s, it was very, very pale, white, pasty skin tones that we were seeing in these music videos. And I think it was all the same statement of saying that we're not a threat, or if we are going to lead the nations, or we are going to like encourage, or anyone's going to emulate our mindset, this is what they're going to take from us being in the limelight. Yeah. I need my notes for the rest of this, so I'll get back.
Yes.
yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I think it is like a survival tactic, but it's also like, I think if you have a strong basis in understanding like what racism, white supremacy is, then you'll understand that like that's why you're feeling like you need to do these things to survive, and then you won't, like, you'll be a lot less inclined to do them. I think it's really important to like, I know for me, like, you could tell your kid all the time, like, oh, don't care about this stuff, don't care about makeup, don't care about, but if she sees you putting it on, or if she sees you spending an hour doing your hair before you go somewhere, it doesn't really matter what you're saying, because the social cues tell her that if I want to go out, I have to look a certain way and do all of these things to be presentable. So I think, yeah, we have to change our actions, and in turn, like, that will like greatly influence the youth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just no longer being the strong, independent Black woman and being the aware Black woman that and Black male that understands the importance of teaching their offspring that what's happening in the world, the destruction of their people, the destruction and the power and brilliance of their melanin and the brilliance of being born Black and the importance of fighting this fight against racism, white supremacy.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but they want to read on page 289, like kind of the things that she encourages Black women and Black men to do, where she says, Black women can teach your daughters never to refer to Black men as baby and never allow Black men to refer to them when adult women as mama. Thus, they systematically can refuse to reinforce the image the white man wants reinforced, an adult Black male baby, and thus the proverbial motherfucker. It is clear that a baby will never track down the man. Finally, Black women can teach their daughters that they can change the tide of Black destiny by only giving their most intimate pleasures to the providers whose always prove themselves as warriors against all enemies of the Black collective. When I read that, and she says all enemies of the Black collective, I think she's talking about white people and people who have decided to use Black people to catapult themselves to wealth and fortune, like they do in like they're doing in the Middle East. Like you guys know that there's a strong push to claim Egypt as the Middle East. And me and Mary were talking earlier about that, about how important is Egypt to us, because they'd rather destroy it than give it back to us. So I told Mary that I think Black people are strong enough to force people to leave Egypt if necessary, without it being destroyed, just by being on code and by being clear about what we want. And I do think Egypt is like very important to Black people. That's why there's such a strong effort to say it's not in Africa. I saw a documentary today, and they had did a map of the Middle East, and they had shaded all the places that were in the Middle East, and they shaded Egypt. And I was like, Egypt's not in the Middle East; it's Africa. And now I'm learning that the people in Egypt look like Arabs. They look like people.
Yeah, they've been totally diluted. They've been hella diluted. I used to date. Egypt.
So when I read that part, I was like, I need to take that. I need to take this effort myself and stop calling my partner baby, and stop calling her all these low power names, because she's right. A baby is not gonna track down the perpetrators of white supremacy. A baby is not gonna stand up for himself. A baby is gonna cry, squabble, and do things that are unproductive, and countering racism, white supremacy, and turning it off once and for all.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Sorry, I can't hear us.
No one's talking.
Oh. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Trey. Like, just recalling from that conversation, one of my biggest fears was that they would rather destroy it before moving from that land. I do hope that it would be different, but I know for a fact that people who do not have any ancestral connection to a place will happily ruin it before they give it back. We've seen it in Patra, they're being destroyed, the most of the monuments there in Patra, most of the monuments in Jordan that were actually ancestrally like African Black, the Phoenicians that lived there before have been completely destroyed. And I feel like the only reason why they haven't destroyed Egypt's monuments is because it's one of the 7 wonders and it's making them a lot of money. The second it doesn't make them money, I believe that they will attempt to do something dodgy, but hopefully we will have stronghold and communication and unity and some form of organization that will prevent these stuff from happening in the future. But to get back to the chapter, I really liked the passages about the name calling of baby and allowing comfortability of the Black male, and it being that's literally what I had written down. It being the cause of their own self-destruction. You think you're being kind and like protective, but in the long run, it is their self-destruction, not arming them mentally, physically, and spiritually with the tools that's needed to actually combat in this world. It's likely that they would end up in prison or in the hands of someone else who is likely to help, who would baby them and continue that until their kingdom come or however. And so using more powerful words to associate with each other, it was something that came to mind. And the fact, and I thought about how it's enlaced in our music. Every track is baby this or baby, baby, baby. However, it's enlaced in everything, that every part of our society is just baby, and it's like cute to be baby or to it's but really in the long run, what are we actually saying? We are adding to the etymology that we are minors in spiritually.
Yeah, like they'll pay a grown man millions of dollars to jump around and shout and rap words together, and if the name is Lil Baby or Baby, but imagine a rapper named Man, White Supremacy Destroyer. I've never heard those rap names before. I never heard a man. I seen a country singer named a Man, but never a black man named a Man. They may call a Man, because I heard babies called Man. What's talking to Man? I don't know. But anywho, I digress. I like for us to like take turns reading the
Oh,
last
there you are.
paragraph and discussing each of them. So I'm gonna read the first paragraph, and we're gonna discuss it, and then so on and so forth. It's on 290. What?
What page?
290. And it says these lessons will be practiced. Oh, my bad. These lessons will not be practiced until we Black women reach a new level of respect for ourselves. We must struggle as individuals to build this essential new Black self-respect through the following exercises. 1, we must stop gossiping about one another. We must stop name calling one another. We must stop squabbling with one another. We must stop competing and comparing ourselves with one another. We must stop making babies of our sons and lovers and then calling them incompetent behind their backs. We instead of looking into the mirror each morning, asking mirror, mirror on the wall, am I the fairest of all? We should begin to ask mirror, mirror on the wall, am I fooling my Black self at all? So this reminds me of like the girls who put in like the fake weaves, like even the guys who straighten their hairs and like put on this like so-called like rocker aesthetic. Yeah, you can have a rocker aesthetic, but not if you're like killing your hair follicles by burning your hair. If it's not healthy for you, then it's not healthy for you. That's just logic right there. And like the fairest of them all, like fair just means white. White people have like subconsciously and consciously made that word mean white, and a lot of people strive to be white. That's how we're trained to want to be white. And I stopped comparing myself to other people a long time ago, and it's been really good for my mental health because that's what I've always seen people do, like comparisons. Oh, what are people thinking about me? Worried about what people are thinking about me, or like so and so like said this or thought this about me. I'm like, you're letting so many people live in your head rent free. Like they don't have to experience what you experience, but yet, you know, and that turns into gossiping and like squabbling. Like all of these things are hella interrelated because everything is related. And it's all because we're all victims of race and white supremacy, and we haven't been trained in a way to counter it. So this is how we look at as a collective.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Hold on, give me a second.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm gonna read the second paragraph.
You don't have any other comments? 'Cause I wanted us to discuss each paragraph. So
Oh, I remember now. Okay, so this paragraph, I think Black people and non-white people need to stop doing everything that is unconstructive, that is killing them, and it doesn't really provide anything
But
for
see,
their
like,
lives,
Ezra,
especially the
my
things that are
thing from the
killing them.
beginning is like, this is a slow learning trip. We about to
So,
no, we're not going to go hang out. If you want
hold
to hang
on.
out,
All
try to
right,
come
go
over
ahead.
right now. We can all hang out right here.
Mainly emphasis on things that are killing
And if you
Black
want to go to
people
Vegas,
that,
that's a whole
that they
different
shouldn't
story.
partake
You know what I
in,
mean? Like,
they
if you
can
go to
stop
Cali,
doing,
the
like
people
bleaching
come
your
to
skin and,
like we're gonna hang out.
trying
Obviously,
to
we're not gonna go snowboarding every single day, but like that's like
a lot of the other
activities
unconstructive
that
things
we
like
would want to
alcoholism
do.
and partying and all these things.
Yeah,
Things that
I
can be
agree.
stopped immediately. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was gonna say I agree with everything you said, and I think the are you fucking kidding me? It's so goddamn annoying. Sorry. um, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Something that I thought too when reading all those things is like I think people really need to like, especially Black people, need to just like not be on social media and stuff because a lot of the parts, the gossiping, name calling, squabbling, competing and comparing ourselves, like we've already been doing that, and now it's like times 10 million by being on these social media platforms. It's not beneficial to your mental health. It's not beneficial because everything that you, there's no like Black space. That's just a Black space on social media. Therefore, anything, any type of conversation you have, everything is going to be viewed by white people, giving them further analysis on Black people, further ways to figure out how to manipulate us and set us apart from each other. So I think it's really important to just like cut that out of your life personally.
But just responding to as well, Ash and Ezekiel said, I personally agree with everything you've been saying. I think removing oneself from social media is also a good idea. Um, for me, I think just being honest in all areas of life activity is another a thing that one can do. So when talking about how you're feeling, like so even I'll just go by based off experiences. This morning, a neighbor knocked on me and Mary's door, and they wanted to use the kettle. And he asked me how I'm doing, and I said I can't be doing good in the system where Black people are being killed every single day. I can't be doing good when white supremacy is very real. So I'm doing everything in my power to solve this problem. So I can't be doing good right now. My day is I'm gonna survive today because I'm not leaving my house anytime soon. So that's good. But am I like in a position where I'm happy and like prancing around and just in a good state of mind and being? Definitely not, because I'm very aware what's happening. Um,
Yeah, to add a comment, thank you. To add a comment to what everybody's just shared from that part of the chapter is so true. If I feel like another reason, which stems from the other point that I was trying to make about women assimilating for survival, I feel like pretty privilege kind of plays a big part in like how people are treated in like society as well. And of course, white supremacy dictates the aesthetic. And if you don't go by this, then are you pretty, or would you have access to this privilege, or would life be a little bit easier for you in some sense? So I feel like women's obsession with their looks as well, especially those who come into a point of like self-grooming and self-preservation, it's very quickly vanity kind of comes to play, and that's I do see why it's one of the biggest sins, because it makes you so self involved and narcissistic, and those traits can be very like poisonous to anybody around you. Let alone which of course narcissism is a white supremacy disease, which is fabricated, but you can get it separately with like. So I feel like that focus on the question of am I fooling myself as a Black person versus who's fairest of them all is very important. Another statement that was made that I think is very important is that if about social media and coming off of social media, from a conversation I had with my friend a while ago, this was the time when the Black Lives Matter movement was like just before, when people were upset about George's death, and we were sharing a lot on social media. One of my friends messaged me privately, and he was like, Black women should have their own forum where we discuss our own matters, separate from Instagram and social media. Because, and he was like, I guarantee you, if every Black woman came to social media, within a month, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves because they wouldn't know what story to follow, what narrative to go under. And I thought that was so true. We literally like create a buzz feed, and then they ride with it. And if a white presenting person copies that statement, then that would go viral versus whoever Black who would have came up with that original inspiration. So that's something that we can look to practically, having like a space or platform where we can have constructive communication and it not just be about how good we look or, you know, lust, desire, that stuff.
Okay.
That's funny. Speaking of social media, I just wanted to add, that idea of Black Twitter, like that isn't a real place and it doesn't exist. You can't, you can't. Black Twitter is white Twitter. Like, white people created a space for Black people to feel safe so that they can watch and comment like all day long
Okay, so
and push
let me
narratives.
try to get this right.
Yeah,
So right
but
now there's no lifting for the 20.
we can move on though.
All right. Does anyone want to read the next paragraph?
Mary wants to read it.
We do not have many choices remaining. The time is short and the crisis situation, though not of our own making, is upon us. Will we continue to be the cooperating Cleopatra? Or will we be the fighting, struggling warrior queens, warrior princesses? Sorry. Racism now, as in Cleopatra's time, is war against Black people, against the Black family, against Black men, against Black women, and against Black children. Throughout the world, there is no war in history that has gone away with a wish or a prayer. War must be fought with the willpower, knowledge, courage, and determination of the people. Wow. Yeah, for me, that there's so much power in that statement. That is absolute truth, and that is my work wondering why I'm not there. I'm gonna call them back. That there's so much truth in that statement, and just that complacency of Cleopatra from the point that her brother was called Plutonomy, or whatever that word is. I just knew that it had already been infiltrated, so it was like a dying decision that she had made, and she chose a low desire of love rather than fighting in that space. So yeah, I give homage to Cleopatra, but of course, let's just let her experiences just serve as a massive lesson for us in the long run of understanding the progression of our people, and the fact that in the progression of our people. Powerful statement made.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to add, for me, a cooperating Cleopatra looks, for me, it seems like anybody who's willing to work with white people to solve the issues on racism and white supremacy. I think from Cleopatra, using her as an example, you can't work with white people, or you can't work with white supremacy. So that's what I take away from that. And the only thing that matters is, liberating us from racism and white supremacy, and that means any means necessary.
Yeah.
And that definitely for me includes not getting white people involved or letting them know anything, or even looking for them. I want us to be completely separated from white people.
Yeah. I think that is a really safe route,
It is.
until they drop a bomb on us. So that's why we need to, like, come up with solutions, and to really get like a solution, because I don't know if you can trust white people. Like they could write a treaty saying that they're not gonna bomb us, but when has that stopped them from eradicating the Indians or eradicating anyone they wanted to? So yeah.
We have to find like a piece of land that has super, super rare minerals that all of technology can't function without them. And then therefore like could be the only place that white people probably wouldn't bomb because they would lose all their money.
Africa, man, that's literally our original home.
Yeah, wherever there's like lithium and stuff.
We have to take Africa back. We have to awaken our African comrades over there, fellow prisoners of war, getting eradicated, not knowing that the problem is racism, white supremacy, and like the cooperating Cleopatras, like even males can be that. A lot of people have thought that they could lie down with a white woman and still be constructive against fighting racism, and it's not possible at all. Not possible. You cannot create good materials that's going to solve the problem. You may create stuff with some substance that may contribute a little bit, but it's not going to end to causing a problem. And if anything, you're going to promote the idea that black people can, be constructive while fighting racism while laying down with white people. It's not the case. White people have no concern about laying down with us. They have a concern with laying us down in the ground, forever until we solve the problem.
I feel like we're like one of the only groups of people that like so many of the people that we look to that liberate us like are with white people. Like I don't know if that's true for any other group of people. Like I don't know Asian people or like Indian people where they're like heroes or the people who liberated them. We're all fucking white people. Like most of the people that we like look to, so many of them were married to white people, and it's super weird to me. I'll never understand it ever.
Yeah, no more cooperating Cleopatras. Let us learn from
What
her demise.
what an actual statement that was made at that point. Yeah, that's so true. Like most of the black women that we do look up to, that we feel are like do monumental things, when you look that they are situated with a white person. And I did want to make a comment about interracial relationships, actually, not per se like the cooperating Cleopatra, but like when I was like 18, 17, 16, 17, 18, I was just like having conversations and observing the relationship between black men and women. And I was just like the statements that black men make, that it's easier to be with a white woman. I felt like that was because there was a complacency. There's no in-depth there, so that you wouldn't be challenged by them at any point. So why, unless it's affecting them directly or it's a threat to how they feel, it's self-esteem wise, they'll happily let you do anything or ride along, because there's no ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is having you, and then that's been fulfilled. Yeah. In a sense, whereas with black women and black men, we're both dysfunctional to a point that we actually understand that there's something wrong with us. And I used to think I was very wrong for this thinking, but I used to think that it made sense to be with somebody who was less dysfunctional than you, because they'll be able to provide support to help build you up. But now I understand that less functional, that being more functional than you is purposely there through white supremacy, and they will continue to allow you to be complacent in those areas. You may be built up financially, or like in the line of education that will help build you up upward social mobility, but not in a mental or in a state that allows you to have a deeper self-image and self-esteem from the core. So yeah, that was my understanding of interracial relationships.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, if you're not trying to end white supremacy, it's a pretty good, potentially good deal if you are just the only black person and you go home and you don't have to see another suffering black person. You can just see a white person who's doing good. Like, you may feel like you can relate to them on some way.
If you want a comfy cell right in the same place as your master, your white oppressor, then by all means, enjoy it. but just understand that that is not what you're put on this planet to be used by white people, which is what is happening. The power dynamic: you are a child under the system of white supremacy, and they are the man, the adults. So please reconsider. Please join the fight. Um, yeah, definitely no more cooperating Cleopatras. We need to like make a T-shirt about that. Like honestly. Any more comments before we move on to the last paragraph?
But my final comment is that the mention about the we are warrior queens. I really love that statement. Growing up, I was obsessed with Xena the Warrior Princess, and like to be fair, most TV shows and movies that had like a female protagonist, like dominating, fighting, just being a warrior, I was highly attuned to, and I feel like on a white supremacist kind of scale in terms of like we're the generation of Power Rangers, we're the generation of like all this team fighting like against the authorities thing, and I feel like on a massive scale, on a metaphysical scale, the people who are in charge of distracting us kind of were highly aware that we are like a generation, we are a very big generation who are here to do a lot of stuff in terms of our Uranus as being in Capricorn. You can look up what that means later. All of us here have the same generation of Uranus being in Capricorn, which means we're meant to stand up to power and authority. And I felt like all of these things were given to us on TV to like basically give us a false sense of achievement, give us a false sense of unity and guide our minds in the wrong way. And like Xena the Warrior Princess, like I loved it so much, but one of the ideals that they also had was that she was like highly in love with her female companion that was traveling with her, and it like ended with them being together. Like they made they turned it very queer at the end, and I just felt like this message that they give, like constantly controlling the narrative of people who basically grow up with these passions in their hearts that know that they're meant to be doing something here, but it's just constantly like diverted. And having Dr. Frances Cress Welsing as a real teacher, I can read that statement and take it in for what it actually is and like embrace it in that way, as opposed to all the other like ways that those images of being a warrior princess or being a warrior queen has been muddled into thinking that as a warrior princess I should also be in love with a female counterpart versus not being able to stand side by side with a man.
Damn. No, thanks for sharing that, Mary. Does anyone want to read the final paragraph?
Yes. I would love to read the final paragraph. There is not a black problem that I mentioned in this book, which is not related to the reality of white domination of black people. We are not Americans, just as the Jews were not considered Germans. In code language, both German and American mean white. We as blacks are the victims of the Americans, like the Jews were the victims of the Germans. We are the victims we're the victims of those who classify themselves as white. The Jews gave their response to their white oppression. What will be our response as black women? Sorry, um, we are the victims of those who classify themselves as white. The Jews gave their response to their white oppressors. What will be our response as black women? How will we decide to influence the course of all of black destiny as we rapidly approach the 21st century? Mothers of mankind, the decision is ours. When I first read this, to me it seemed like a call to action, like black women, educators of mankind, creators of mankind, sustaining forces of mankind. What are we gonna do basically? Like what should I do as a servant in your army? as your warrior. Tell me where to go, where to swing my sword.
Yeah, I also saw it as a like call to action, like just to understand, like the language is very there. It's clear, like you know, like the Jews, they said never again after the Holocaust is over. After slavery, the blacks, they were already so disenfranchised and separated, and like no true black unity, no true black deep self respect, that they have never said their oppressors never again. They get in the streets and shout that their lives matter, but what like constructive measures are we doing as a collective to prove that our lives matter, or what not? Like, are we exhibiting deep levels of self-respect, or are we not? Are we being constructive with our time and energy, or are we not? Because either that, you're either constructive or you're non-constructive. That's just simple logic right there. And I think it's really important just to understand that we are the victims of the Americans, the Europeans. And what does that mean? It means you've been menticide. It means you've been made to be white, to think white, to hate yourself, to hate people who look like you, to hate your other half of your species, and you've been made to want to be everything but a black male or a black female. And why? It's because the Americans and the Germans and the European collective have decided that this system needs you to be inferiorized and destroyed for them to continue going about their way of life. So call to action, and what Mary said about us being born in the like Uranus generation to like challenge power, to destroy power, white supremacy will and must fall. So it's really profound. Thanks for sharing that, Mary.
Amazing, no problem. It's Uranus in Capricorn. It's 7 year generational. If you type in Uranus in Capricorn, it literally just says that we're against power structure and authority, and have a big disdain to authority, and collectively we are literally here to make a change and make a difference. And if you think about that and that context, think about how all of those shows are like don't exist anymore. There's no Power Rangers, there's no like Digimon, there's no team thingies, because it was to distract us and give us a false sense of that already happening, rather than us coming together and doing it. But the double-edged sword is that we can take the best bits of that and then now actually work together to make it happen. And yes, I did see this as a call to action as well, this chapter. And that particular paragraph, I saw it as a call to action. It was actually my first time hearing it. I never got to read that. So thank you for sharing it.
I'd like everyone to try to comment on the last paragraph. If you have anything to say, don't be shy.
Yeah, for me, I will. Yeah, the Jews, it never happened to them again. Um, so I think it might be even, hopefully, maybe it's interesting or maybe even constructive to find out like what the Jews did, to ensure their survival.
I mean, I called about
yeah, basically a call to action.
They don't have
Black people need to, I guess almost use the Jews as an example.
Individual, yeah, they have
of what will most likely happen.
Individual, I think you can add
and almost how we can prevent it. I guess.
Yeah. Does anyone have any closing comments to share about this chapter?
Oh, I just wanted to say the same thing as Mary said about that line. I need to learn how to have a warrior's heart and like really build that mental fortitude. I think it's really important.
All right, no closing comments.